talked to Alex Jones for the same reason I talked to the guy from the Proud Boys who started Vice. I told him what they were doing. I told him wasn't no good what they was doing. I tried to talk to him. I was trying to talk some sense into him. And I think these conversations should be engaged. That's what they'll say. It's like you get granted permission. Or you grant yourself permission to dance around the edges of conspiratorial thinking. So here's the thing. So here's what'll happen. Let me just break it down for you. What you will do, you will talk to Malcolm Gladwell and you will talk about how awful it is what happened to Sandra Bland. But on the other side of the table, you are speaking to people who are helping create the environment for sort of racist acts to happen. So on this hand, you'll say, well, this is awful what happened. On this hand, you will be kind of legitimizing those kinds of people. Because how many of y'all remember when Alex Jones accused, I couldn't even find it on the net anymore. I guess it's been scrubbed. But he said on the show way back when, during the height of Black Lives Matter or whatever, that Black Lives Matter was planning some kind of thing or planning violence, something like that. And it's just, how do you get to play with somebody who does that and say, well, I know him and we both been kind of beat up and we both been hammered by the same people. We both go through things. Like that's nothing that could happen to us as ADOS. That's nothing that we could do in terms of anything. I mean, Remember, and I remember criticizing Mark Lawrence Hill for what he said in terms of Palestine. But do you remember, like, he got kicked off? It was just he got kicked off CNN. He's just gone. And I don't see a space like to do a podcast after that gets millions of downloads, like Joe Rogan. The opportunity for some kind of, let's just have free speech and we're gonna talk to everybody. And how has that worked out? This whole idea, because I'm going to read something from Jacobin in a minute. Jacobin, whichever one it is. But how has that worked out? The idea that, we get through to people like Alex Jones or whoever else, or the Proud Boys or whoever else you want to talk to. How has that idea, how has that worked out? This idea that we're going to talk to all we got to do is talk to the people who putting out lies and conspiracy theories and races. And the guy from Vice, he was just being a provocateur anyway. He ain't really mean no harm. You understand? So you get to dance around the edges of this just because you project a sort of ordinary whiteness. That's really not profound. The biggest thing that Joe Rogan does is that he gives people the space to kind of finish their sentences and like really try to understand the people that he brings onto his show, rather than a lot of other people who kind of engage in this weird kind of, I'm just going to pepper you with questions. I'm not going to bring any of my personal experience to it. I'm not going to be really conversational. I'm going to just be really elite. And so that's why the mainstream media also bears responsibility in what we see happening. Because they have narrowed the window in terms of what can be said so much that you create a whole nother market for a whole bunch of other people to say some good stuff and some stuff that's really problematic, but it's all really, really white. And like it's all kind of excused away. Like Alex Jones, he's really just a great guy. You just don't understand him. He just, he makes some mistakes. And I tried to tell him about himself. Since when is that a pass for anybody? Certainly not a pass for me. Certainly not a pass for you. So let me just get back. So he got the endorsement, and they've all been apparently shopping for the endorsement. And you had a lot of people, come out there and, the mainstream. Ezra Klein, a lot of them. Bernie's strength is that he can win over some voters who are skeptical of Democrats, like Joe Rogan. If you think getting Trump out of office is actually important, that's a good thing. And he should lean into it. He should lean into it. Now notice that we have, there's not any kind of conversation in terms of how that's going to impact us. And how we should feel about it and what we should lean into. So do you all remember? We did a whole show a while back about this fellow right here. And because he did an article about reparations. The time we came out and started talking about reparations, he's the co-founder, editor of Jacobin or whatever. He came out, said what he said immediately. Reparations not the way to go. Didn't take time. He didn't say, well, we have to do this. He didn't say, well, we need to really consider reparations because we need the black vote. And it is old, and we're going to have to figure out a way to wrap it into what we're doing. And we're going to have to, the people, he didn't say like, well, the people who are opposed to reparations, we're going to have to do activism to get them on point. I want to remind you, because I'm going to show you what he said, just a couple of the things. I'm not going to go into the whole article. I'm going to show you what he said, then I'm going to show you what was written in his magazine, and I'm going to show you how it's different. See, because we don't get we have to, even though we're the mule, we have historically been the mules of the Democratic Party. We don't get we have to really do what's right by black people. We have to really do what's right by ADOS. ADOS in terms of reparations and a black agenda in terms of black people. We have to really do that. We didn't get any of that. When we were talking about reparations, he shut us down immediately. But he ain't shut Joe Rogan down. See, that's the tie that binds. Before we get into it, that's the tie that binds, isn't it? The tie that binds in terms of whiteness, and people get to access whiteness, right? The tie that binds is, yeah, y'all gonna do whatever it takes to chase the white vote. Like, it don't matter. And so this is what you told us about reparations. You made up all kinds of excuses, and we're gonna go to what you said about Rogan. Or consider this dilemma. Money for reparations will come from government expenditure, of which around half is funded by income tax. Could we be in a situation where we're asking, say, a black Jamaican descendant of slaves or a poor Latino immigrant to help fund a program that they can't benefit from? Reparations wouldn't be such a 0-point game, but it would be a hard to shake the perception. Now that's what you said. That's what you said about reparations, because people wouldn't get on board. Understand that the job that you have as a person at a magazine or who runs a magazine is to help people get on board of stuff you believe in, not to talk about how it's not possible. There are a lot of people who are not on board with a lot of leftist ideas, but you don't sit around and talk about how it's not possible. You get on board with convincing people that it should happen. Don't think we don't see it. Don't think we don't see you. So here's the second thing that he said. Well, one of the things. When polled, most black Americans agree that our society should do whatever is necessary to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed, and that government should spend money to tackle poverty. The vanguard of the American social democracy, they're joined now by millions of others, commanding majorities that support Medicare for all, a jobs guarantee, free public education, blah, 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 blah. So what you basically saying is reparations for white people. That's what we're gonna give the money that we should have been paid. We should have been paid ADOS. We're gonna give that money away to everybody. So I owe you money, right? I owe you money, but let me just tell you what I'm gonna do. I owe you $100. See, and a bunch of people in this room that might be mad at me if I just give you your $100 back. So I'm gonna go and give everybody $1. But you gonna get $1 too. Ain't that all right? Ain't that good? You get $1. Well, wait a minute, you owe me the whole 100. But yeah, if I give you the whole 100, everybody in this room gonna be mad at me except you. I gotta keep everybody happy. So I'm gonna give everybody $1. And you get $1 too. Well, now I'm just equal to everybody, but the debt was 100. But you got $1. Why are you mad about $1? You got your $1. In what world does that make sense? But that's what's told to us. When we start talking about reparations, when we start talking about the debt, when we start talking about what is owed, people come down with the hammer quick. No, we said no, we're not going that way. We're moving on. Y'all remember Bernie went on the Breakfast Club initially. He eventually tried to come around HR4. Remember, what is reparations? What would it look like? Would it be a cash payment? I don't know. You tell me. Well, I'm flabbergasted. I'm clueless. But let's not talk about race, because you, like Joe Rogan, y'all don't really want to talk about or have any kind of real understanding of race that exists. But you all want to anchor yourself in the mythology of America, where, as long as we just change government or whatever, race doesn't matter. Or with Joe Rogan, as long as you work hard, race doesn't matter. Or Joe Rogan will say, I worked hard. I used to work comedy clubs. What are you talking about? We all worked hard. Let me just say this, white America, can I say one thing to you? Just because you had it hard, or you worked hard, or your life wasn't no crystal stair, don't mean that racism doesn't exist. Your hard life, if you grew up in the trailer park or whatever, your hard life doesn't erase racism because you had it rough. Constant black poverty is not white poverty. Nobody's saying that you wasn't poor. That don't make a hill of beans about the erasure of racism in America. So just stop there. I had it rough. I had to do comedy clubs. I remember one time I had one shoe. That doesn't change anything. And it's anecdotal. It's just your specific life. It's not the life of whiteness or everybody else who accesses whiteness. That's your specific life. Don't mean a hill of beans. But let's just go back. I just read you what the editor of, when one of the founders, whatever he is, we went through that one day, of Jacobin, whatever, said about reparations. You torpedoed it immediately. That's not the way to go. You told us that that's not the way to go. ADOS. But here's what you had to say about the whole, something, not you, but somebody in your paper, and it was on behalf of y'all. I mean, it was published over there about, and I saw your Twitter, and you said, you echoed the statement that, the Joe Rogan endorsement is wonderful, or whatever. It's very interesting how you chase, even on the left, it's not just liberal Democrats. Even on the left, y'all are just chasing that white vote. You don't care you don't care where it takes you. All you see is all them downloads. So here's what you said. I just want to just make this case. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see. While Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, and Andrew Yang have appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan has said that Warren, Buttigieg, and Biden have all tried and failed to get booked on the show. It's obviously why the YouTube page for the Joe Rogan Experience has 7.29 million subscribers, and even more people download the podcast every month. Numbers. Because see, we understand what you're hearing. Like, some of the people, we're not saying all of them, I'm not even saying Joe Rogan is racist. I don't know the man. I just know that some of the stuff is really problematic. But I don't think Democrats care how problematic it is, because in their mind, they're just like, well, even if some of them even if people are, kind of racist vote too. So let's go to the second quote. Hold on one second. Better yet, this legion of fans isn't made up of progressive activists who are already planning to vote in the Democratic primaries. Rogan spends far more time talking about drugs and movies and mixed martial arts than he does about the presidential election. Many of his fans are relatively apolitical, but some may be moved to register to vote by Rogan's ode to the integrity of Bernie Sanders, or his passionate defense of Medicare for all. You know what I would be interested to find out? You know what I would want to know? Honestly, I would want to know, Bernie Sanders has black surrogates, right? I would want to know, did he talk to Nina? Did he talk to Killer Mike? Did he talk to anybody and say, and just run it past you, is this going to hurt me in the black community? Is this going to be a problem? Did he even consider, or was it just like everybody else? This man has subscribers. He has a lot of subscribers. We just gonna go get him. We just gotta win. We gotta win at the cost of winning. We don't care. We just gonna win. I would just like to know. I mean, that was signal to me something in terms of like, did we factor in at all in terms of any of this? It's all very interesting. Let me go to the next quote, though. Rogan's friendly relationships with these right-wing thinkers, also with his own reactionary views, has given many casual observers the impression that he's a coherent right-winger. In reality, he's about where many persuadable Americans are, which is to say that while he doesn't think about politics all the time, he likes and dislikes some individual politicians. He has knee-jerk reactionary positions on some issues, and he finds egalitarian proposals for universal programs deeply appealing. Let's go to the next one really quick. We don't object to platforming such people for the purpose of pushing back against views, but Rogan has acted as an uncritical sounding board for them. Though there was a hilarious moment where he got at a libertarian. Who cares? Who cares, Jacqueline? This is the real Joe Rogan show, a total mix of the apolitical and the political, the reactionary and the progressive. He's, in a sense, representative of the political zigzags of most ordinary people who don't think and tweet about politics all the time. Now here's the thing. I think regarding people not being in a box, I think that's true. I think most people aren't in a box, right? But we live in this world, like, understand how we're boxed in as ADOS. Understand that we can't even have a conversation about what income, what immigration level should be without being called xenophobic. Like, you can have any conversation, but the dude can do everything. Like, the same left that will call us xenophobic all day long. Like, understand this same left, because we said, we might be, when you look at some of the studies, black people, especially ADOS people, when you have immigrants who are low skilled or displaced in the workforce, when you say this might be a problem, look at this, we get called xenophobic and all kind of stuff. Oh my God, y'all are awful. You just hate him. No, we don't. We never said anything like that. What are you talking about? Oh, yes, you do. You just awful. You just awful. Now, the same left that has been calling us awful and xenophobic for how long? At least a year and a half, or at least a year and a half, 2 years at least, has been calling us xenophobic, is going to now co-sign Joe Rogan and all of, like, the kind of right-wing sympathies that he has. If that doesn't speak to the power of whiteness, I don't know what does. If that doesn't speak to the power of freedom, the freedom that whiteness gives you, I don't know what does. To be a free thinker and do whatever you want to do, regardless of who gets hurt, regardless of who has a problem with it, regardless of, like, regardless of how oppressive it is to kind of engage in those thoughts and legitimize certain people, you get to move around and do whatever. You still get to, like, people still seek your endorsement. And we don't do it just for entertainments and giggles. We do it for real politics here, ADOS. That's what we're doing it for. You're doing it just for content. And we get shunned on the internet while the left is seeking out your endorsement. That's the power of whiteness. You can be you can reflect back to white men, the most ordinary white man in the world. Not really deep at all. But you give people and you give people a chance to answer their questions. People come on to your show, and all of a sudden you become a thought leader. And nobody really realizes, no, the thought leaders, you connect people to the thought. You're not the thought leader. How do we have a world where you matter like that? How do we not see what this means? And how we've been bottled up. Like, we've been fighting that for how long? This man's been talking about, well, I told Gavin them not to be with them Proud Boys. And he said it was just a joke. He didn't even mean it like that. And then he disses himself from the Proud Boys. And like it's too serious. And how many times have we heard that? It ain't that serious. And so you're in a position where a lot of people end up going on his show because he has the eyeballs. because he gets to do whatever he wants to do. You can't do that. They'll knock you off Twitter. I mean, with all kind of, but let me just go to a couple more quotes and we'll come back to it. I just want to show you how this leftist, this how they responded to reparations as opposed to, but we're going to go get Joe Rogan's endorsement. So let's just go to a couple more quotes and we'll come out of it. A few more. It's a few more. And we'll come out of it and have the discussion. But even on the narrow question of shock jocks with the history of making problematic comments, some memories are very short. Hillary Clinton went on the Howard Stern show and basked in Howard's praise of her record and happily agreed with his criticisms of Bernie Sanders. Last month, there wasn't a ripple of controversy about it from the crowd. And if we're going to be realistic about this, it's hard to imagine that there would have been much controversy if Joe Rogan said, I think I'm probably going to vote for Elizabeth Warren because she's so smart. She has a plan for everything. I think that probably would have. Who wrote this? Let me go to the next one. It's people just so goofy. As grating as it is that Bernie is being bombarded with outrage for being endorsed by a podcast host with a mishmash of views while hardly anyone... Look, stop right there for a second, though. With a mishmash of views. What does it matter if you have a mishmash of views if some of your views are horrible? Like, if you have a people like, well, it's okay. It really is okay to have a mishmash of stuff. But, like, if some of your views or some of the people you hang around are horrible, are we able to say that? Are we able to have that conversation? How not? How can you have a country even if you're not able to have that kind of conversation? How? I don't understand what kind of country we are if we're not based on anything. If there are not some core values that we have in common. Doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much sense. So let me bring this up. Let me bring the Biden's failure. Well, they start talking about Biden. Let me go through this really, really quickly. Every successful presidential campaign is by definition a coalition of voters who don't agree with each other about everything but are willing to get behind a given candidate and their platform. The question is whether we're so allergic to having people in our coalition who haven't yet reached progressive positions on every issue that we're willing to risk losing what is arguably the most important election of our lifetimes. Well, y'all didn't care about it when it was us, though. You didn't care when it was us. Like what? I mean, what? We are the mules of the Democratic Party. Didn't anybody say like what happens if we're about to lose people? If we're about to lose people, what happens if we're about to lose black people? I don't think we understand how much we haven't mattered in this party. And I only have a couple more quotes to go. Which is more important? Which is more important? Stigmatizing Rogan for his bad views by refusing to make any welcoming gestures when he expresses interest in joining our coalition, or shutting down Donald Trump's concentration camps? Changing personal attitudes is important. It's also a subtle and complicated project. We can at least start by bringing people together in a shared political project to elect a candidate who is committed to a whole list of progressive goals ranging from Medicare for all, protect trans people, discrimination, blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff they talking about. We can at least we got to do what we got to do. We got to try to get that. We got to get that vote. We don't got no other choice. People who might be a little bit racist, that might have a lot of political views that conflict with ours, we would rather chase them down than to even add reparations to the leftist platform. Because that people don't want to get behind reparations, but I don't care if he talked to Alex Jones, who's a known conspiracy theorist, and I don't care about none of that. So this just goes to show you, like, there are no values. And this leads to the final point. And I'm so happy. This was a tiresome little article, but it gave a good kind of counterbalance, and it gave a good to show you who we are and how we're thought of amongst the left versus how everybody else is thought of. So, but it's so stupid. And this leads us to the final point. To the extent that we can change people's personal views, what's the best strategy? What's the best strategy to do us? Are we likely to reach them if we start by drawing a sharp line between us and them? Demanding that they repent their bad views before we'll have anything to do with them? We don't think so. Oh, is them Joe Rogan trolls in the thing? That was odd. Anyway, I think sometimes you have to interpret what a thing means, or what a few things mean. And I think, loyalty is supposed to be rewarded. And that's in anything, not just a party. That's in anything. But what happens is Democrats, on the other hand, they reward people who are running away, or who might run away, or who they're not sure are in the camp. Instead of, like, even if you had, like, instead of chasing this man down, like, he's got numbers. No, instead of, just make a case. Make your case. Don't just run down make your case. And you have a job. Everybody says, well, we just need these. And you can work on influencing those people without anybody else. But the problem is, a lot of your stuff hasn't made sense. And so what you've been doing, instead of having a certain set of values, you've been kind of throwing money at the wall. Now, you have a bunch of money to throw at the wall when it comes to Medicare for all, when it comes to college. You just throwing money. I don't care how much the college costs. We pay for all college, everybody. Everybody college paid for. How much that going to cost? We don't care about the money. But when it comes to us, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money you're talking about. That's a lot of cash. That's a lot of jing, jing, jangle in the pocket. And you have to before you figure out what you're going to do, or what we're going to do, and how we're going to do it. Before we figure any of that out, we got to figure out who we are, not just who we are as a group. Part of reading and what we're doing is figuring out who we are as a group of people, as ADOS. The other part of that, though, is figuring out what we mean to politics, and what we mean to politicians, and what we mean to parties. And I think this shows that people are very insincere when they say what they say to us about reparations. No, it doesn't mean that you don't want to pay. You just don't want to pay us. It doesn't mean that you don't want to chase votes. You just don't want to chase us. Doesn't make any sense. Because you get to play around with that. You get to play around with fire all the time and not get burned. You do good things with compelling content, but then you add that other little stuff in. That's what keeps people kind of giggling. And yeah, I like him because he's honest. I like him. Like he said, Joe Rogan, I like right-wing media because they take chances. You just give people excuses to like stuff that shouldn't be liked. And you say, and people say, that's why I like it too. No, that ain't why you like it. Well, I like Alex Jones, but he don't really care about the mainstream. He just say what he mean. Nah, you 10-4, but you be 10-4 hatting too. And I don't think we understand, and even us in terms of what we've been through in the past few weeks, it's really hard to compete with people who can just say anything. And you can say anything one day and say something else the next day. If you can say something one day and then say the total opposite the next day, and then just say wild stuff that bears no truth one day, and then one day you really having a serious interview with somebody, and then the next day you just talking trash or whatever, it's hard to compete as a serious person with people who can be all over the place. Like, it's almost if, like, when you look at Joe Rogan, like, whiteness is being everything and nothing at the same time. You get to be this person who has all these really good thought leaders on your show, but then you get to go and talk Alex Jones. And so how do you even be the person who interviews like Alex Jones and Malcolm Gladwell, like somebody who's well studied and somebody who is just a conspiratorialist? How that just flattens the conversation and puts them both on the same level, and that's kind of what you get to do. I would never get to do that. I would never get to do that. I would never get to be everywhere and then have 1 million downloads or whatever a month. But you get to just be everything and nothing all at the same time. You get to be in a place where, like, racism matters, but really it matters kind of only in theory, right? So racism matters, but you're going to use it as content, but you are never going to, like, implore your people to think differently about it, or your listeners to do something, necessarily about it, as opposed to just individual. But it's not an individual problem. It is a systemic problem, but you'll have the conversation and say, yeah, the officer did X, Y, and Z, but that's where you'll leave it. And that's where you get to leave it, because that's what whiteness does. Whiteness gets to be unserious in a way that I never could, and you never could, none of us could. And that's kind of the problem that we run into. This kind of how we have, like, the Joe Rogans of the world who can walk up to the line, but they don't ever have to cross it. And we have to cross that line every day when we get up. They get to walk up to that line and not cross it. Yeah, that officer was awful. What he did was wrong. And that's the end of it, though. You don't have to go beyond that and be like, what do we do? What has to happen? How do I use my listeners to make that happen? There's no responsibility. You're just able to just have the conversation. And everybody can do what they want to with the conversation. And we have to live the consequence of you not having to do anything, and you being able to be lazy in the way that you're able to be lazy and just kind of talk. We live that laziness every day. That is what it is. And Bernie will go and chase that laziness and won't anchor himself in what he needs to do in order to get the black vote. That's where we are. And that's the problem I have with Joe Rogan. I don't accuse him of anything. I don't know the man. Never met the man. I don't know what's in his heart or whatever he do. I just know the problem I have with the people who do very serious things and very serious conversations and then go and do the other thing. And the serious stuff is supposed to cover the other stuff. It's a problem. There should be a cost to, like, being around Alex Jones that long. And talking about, well, he ain't mean that way. He know how he is. He gets hot-headed. And I've been trying to tell him a long time. I've been trying to talk to him. See, I'm the good guy. I'm trying to tell him he ain't right. And there also needs to be a consequence, right? We've been trying to talk to people since Reconstruction. But there also should be a consequence to... I kind of feel like, and this is as somebody who has listened to a few Joe Rogan episodes, and before today, I kind of feel that there should, because this is the person who opened the door back up. Remember Sam Harris talking about black people biologically not as smart or whatever, that whole thing. Biological racism. There should be some kind of consequence. Now remember, Ezra Klein debated Sam Harris. I think he did, if I remember correctly. but you're co-signing Bernie Sanders getting an endorsement from the man who gave Harris a platform, right? So I kind of feel like there should be and I think I'll probably end on this in a second. There has to be a consequence, or at least there should be a consequence, to people who leave the door open to good and bad ideas. There's some ideas that we know now don't hold any water. The idea of race in terms of your melanin hair texture, my being a kind of determinant to IQ, we know that's BS. We know what that was built for, what it was meant for, to legitimize our oppression. Opening the door to that as a serious conversation to 1 million plus people a month, or whatever your download is, there should be a consequence to that. And instead of there being a consequence to that, you get rewarded with all of the Democrats chasing your endorsement. And then there's an expectation that black people should go and vote for the people, go and vote for the candidate who just chased the endorsement of somebody who kind of put bad ideas and good ideas on the same level. All under the auspices of this is the market of ideas. No. We know some ideas are wrong and they work as an oppressive force to us because people can legitimize treating us badly and how the system oppresses us because of those ideas. You don't get to do that. You shouldn't get to do that without some kind of consequence in terms of your listeners, in terms of what mainstream politicians will do and how they will seek you. You should not. But you do. And the question for us becomes then, what will be our reaction to those politicians? Because they decided that we don't matter. Basically, that's what it looks like to me. You can tell me if I'm wrong. But how do we react to that? And I think that we can't react the same way. That's why I said Democrat down ballot. Because I don't think we can react the same way we used to. Whereas, you go do it. We might disagree, but we're still going to vote for you. No matter what. We're still going to put a Democrat in the White House. Because when people overlook you and treat you badly, they tend to continue doing that. When they put you at the bottom of the party, even though you're the soul and heart of the party, then they probably going to keep doing that.